Recording in progress.
Thanks everyone for joining us this morning, and thanks to George Bailey for spending some time after we've just announced the white ball squad for the tour of Pakistan coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So as always, guys, microphones on mute, cameras off, take your mics off if you have a question, and put your hand up if you have a question. So we'll get underway as soon as the first one comes in. Anyone got a question? Tom Decent.
Hey, George, just wondering about the fast bowlers. Obviously, there's a few of the test guys who won't be staying on for that limited overs series, and Warner as well. Was that sort of the players saying they'd like to come home a bit earlier, or selectors sort of saying have a bit of a breather?
It's normally a little bit of both, mate. We're pumped that we've got a full squad for the test series. That's really exciting. So looking forward to that, and getting back to Pakistan and playing test cricket there. So thrilled that all the guys are available for that bit. But yeah, there's no doubt that it's a pretty intense schedule that's been the last 6 months, and if you look ahead for the next 18 months. So it's about just working with those individuals, with the squad as a whole, just to make sure that you're trying to meet the needs of everything. And yeah, this was a bit of a challenge, this squad.
Are you there, Cole, or do we just keep going?
Fire away. I'll give you.
Okay, Lockie, you better go, mate. You're next.
All right, I'll go. Hey, George. One name that we haven't seen in this squad, and be curious to see where the selectors are looking at, is Tim David. Obviously, he got picked up for quite a high price in the IPL auction. Is he someone you've had many conversations with in terms of Australian white ball selection, and someone that you considered at all for this series in Pakistan?
Yeah, I've been in lots of contact with Timmy. Thrilled for him and the opportunity he's going to get in the IPL. That was one of the considerations for this series. The fact that we've got 3 one-dayers and just the single T20. We've prioritised the one-day component over the T20.
I'll jump in now. Hey, George, are you just able to clarify for us the IPL availability of contracted players who aren't part of this squad? So the guys you've rested, are they unavailable for the IPL until that April 6th cut-off?
Yeah, I believe that's the position that we're working through with CA Benny Oliver. But that will be the case, that those players who who aren't coming on this white ball component won't be available until the Australian that last fixture in Pakistan, which I think is the 5th.
Yeah. And can I just ask one about Cam Green's back in the mix for limited overs cricket again? Is he someone you'd like to sort of be able to invest some ODI games in now, between now and that 2023 World Cup?
Yeah, absolutely. It looks, when you say 2023 World Cup, it feels like it's a long way away, but I think it's about 30 games, which isn't many. You look at how you're trying to put one-day teams together and what successful one-day teams have looked like in the past. You do want to have a little bit of continuity of role and a reasonable build-up of the players that you think will be in the mix, or a consistent sort of lineup. So we love Greeny's skill set. I think it'll fit really well into one-day cricket. He hasn't played a great deal of. Well, he probably hasn't played a great deal of cricket, but he hasn't played a great deal of one-day cricket. But we think if we can start to expose him a little bit, both skill sets, bat and ball, then he could be really important for us come 2023.
Cheers, George.
Yeah, I think Cole's having a few problems. So, Mal, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks. George, Lockie Henderson, the new chair of Cricket Australia, said on ABC radio that the selectors would be amongst those consulted over the coaching situation. So I just wondered, in terms of your experience, obviously you played a fair bit of international cricket and now touring as a selector or chairman of selectors, what you thought from your observations would be a good structure or a structure worth considering going forward, given there's so much cricket coming up.
Yeah, there is. I'm not sure there's one, or if there is, I'm certainly not settled on it. I think that so much will depend, A, on the individual. B, I do think, I do think CA need to be really clear on what they're after from the coach and that coaching role itself. And I don't know what comes first there. If you find your preferred coach and work with them to find out what suits them best, or whether you define the setup that you're after and then try and find people to fit into those roles. So I mean, essentially what you're after is you're trying to find the very, very best person for the role, and you want to keep them in there as long as possible. So if that does mean that they don't do absolutely every tour, then that's fine. If you look at our 3 assistants and including Andrew as the interim at the moment, they've all had head coaching experience. So potentially, even if you just look internally, there's 3 guys there that could manage taking on head coaching roles for specific tours if that was required.
Right. So can I just sort of follow that up with there has been some talk about the possibility of splitting roles. Darren Lehman thought it was too big for one person. Lockie Henderson thought he said he was open to advice on that. Do you like the idea of having an overarching head coach so you get a consistent message across all 3 formats given players are coming and going, or would you be comfortable with the roles being split by, say, red and white ball?
Again, I think it's the people involved will be key to that, Mal, because this is a good example, isn't it? There's different series where some players are available and some aren't, and just through managing your multi-format players. And I imagine if you were in charge of purely one format and you weren't getting access to the best players all the time, then that probably that can have an impact. But if that's something that you've worked through with the other coach or the other person who's involved, then that can be worked. So that can be worked through. So I don't think there's an easy answer. I don't think there's a one size fits all answer, and I don't necessarily think that whichever structure is landed on for Cricket Australia going forward will be necessarily the right one when you next have to make an appointment.
And last one from me. Those sort of multi-format players are obviously big names who are missing the one-day series, and 3 of them are going off to the IPL. Now, we know they have to wait until they can go to the IPL, but how do you feel that blokes can't play 4 games for Australia but can play 2 months in the IPL straight after?
Yeah, I think, that's a very black and white way of looking at it. I think, we've worked really hard with our multi-format players over a long period, not just this series coming up leading into the IPL. One of the things that we're really keen to ensure is that we can maintain having our best Australian players playing for Australia for as long as possible, medium and longer term. So constantly managing and working with them around their own personal situations to make sure that they get what they need, and also we can continue to get what we need. So I guess from that point of view, we tend to be, the NSP will continue to be quite pragmatic around how we approach each series. As I said, I'm beyond excited about the fact we've got a full strength test squad. I think that's outstanding. It's a place, Pakistan's a place we don't know a lot about. So to be heading off on a tour and not have a really clear-cut idea of what's ahead of you is going to be pretty exciting. And I do also fully respect the IPL as a tournament in terms of, I think they're at the forefront of the evolution of the T20 game. I think it's been a really important tournament for the development and skill development of some of our players. So it's important not to underestimate that going forward as well.
Thanks, George.
If Cole's not back, we'll go to Marty Smith. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you. Hi, George. I think it was about 12 months ago you came out and were quite strong in backing Aaron Finch as the captain for the World Cup. He obviously didn't score many runs against Sri Lanka, and he's copping some criticism again. Do you have any doubt in your mind that he's the right man to lead you at the next T20 World Cup and then obviously a One Day World Cup that follows?
No, I don't. I mean, but I'm not being silly here. I'm sure that Finchy would have liked a few more runs in the series. Just gone. There's no doubt about that. But also putting into context a little bit that he's still battling that knee injury a little bit. So what Finchy will have in between the end of that series and coming away on this tour will be a chance to continue working on that. And also the fact that we've played a lot of T20 cricket. T20 is a bit of a funny one. You can play a lot without actually getting a lot of time in the middle. So I'm really excited the fact that Finch will get some one-day cricket in the near future, and I think just that ability to spend some longer time at the crease will really benefit him as well.
And just sort of a follow up on Tim David, you've obviously invested a bit in Stoinis and Wade as that sort of finisher role, and they've done well over the last 12 months. Does that make it difficult to squeeze someone like Tim David into the team at the moment, or is there a role for him outside those two others in the 6-7 spot?
Yeah, I've enjoyed seeing him get a bit of a role slightly higher than that in the PSL at the moment. I think that's one of the things I do really enjoy looking at is the IPL auction, because it gives you a really clear, market for what roles and what skill sets are highly desirable. And we've talked about it for a number of years. And in between finding Stoin and Wadey, who I think are doing a wonderful job there, it's a role that we've probably struggled to fill or to find people to really nail it down. But if you look around the world at players who are considered absolutely vital in teams, that's the role at the moment. That's the skill set that is desired. So I'm excited about how Tim's going. Really excited to watch how he goes in the IPL, and if he continues playing the way he is, there's no doubt that the skills that he has, he'll be on our radar.
Thanks, George.
And we can go to Bharat. Thanks, Bharat.
Thanks, Alex. Hey, George. George, you said there are 30 games between now and the 2023 50-over World Cup. I don't know how many of those will be in the subcontinent. So keeping that in mind, does that add to the magnitude of these 3 games? And do you see Manas playing a huge role at that World Cup, considering the role he can fit into that 50-over format?
Yeah, absolutely. I think subcontinent exposure is going to be important. I don't really know what to expect from the Pakistan wickets, and I don't know what the sort of similarities are between India, which obviously where the World Cup's going to be, Indian wickets and Pakistan wickets will be. But any subcontinent exposure is fantastic, and Man specifically, and I guess more generally, yeah, he's a fantastic player of spin. Again, he hasn't played a great deal of one-day international cricket, so what we have seen in a pretty short career is we really like. He's also got the added skill set of continuing to work on his leg spin as well, and that's something that we are keen to explore over the next little while. Is continuing to build that depth of all-round ability.
And sorry, just on the topic of spin, looks like Sridhar and Sriram won't be accompanying the side to Pakistan, and he's been part of the coaching setup for quite a while now. Is that a concern at all, or you think you have enough to make up for that absence?
Yeah, I know Shri would have loved to have come. There's a few challenges there, but he has a wonderful relationship, and the beauty of the modern world is you can still keep in pretty good contact. And knowing Shri, he won't miss it. He won't miss a ball of that, so he'll be in good contact with the spin group.
Thanks, Brett. And go to Nick Savage. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Alex. G'day, George. With David unavailable for the white ball series, and obviously it might be a little bit early to say, but do you have any ideas about who might open the batting alongside Aaron Finch in the 50-over matches?
No, I think we've got a number of options there. Well, obviously we have spoken about it. I won't jump out of my place as on the selection front and try and predict the batting order, but there's a number of players I think who have that skill set. What I would say is that our focus for these one-day games, and certainly for the foreseeable future, is continuing to develop and give opportunity to those guys who we think might have supplementary secondary skills in terms of being able to bowl some overs or be particularly handy in the field.
And sorry, just very quickly for me as well, could you please clarify why Matthew Wade missed out on selection for this tour? Was it just because there is, as you said, the one T20 match, and considering you have Carey and Inglis there, it's not worthwhile sending him over?
Yeah, not so much the fact that Alex and Josh were there, but yeah, purely the fact that with the singular T20 game, we're prioritising the one days, which is not uncommon depending on the makeup of those white ball games at the back end of series in the past as well.
All right, thanks so much, George.
No worries.
Let's go to Andrew Menzel now. Thanks, Andrew.
Hi, George. I was just wondering what you made of Josh Inglis's international debut.
I loved it. Very excited and had been excited to see it for some time. So I guess the highlights for me were how quickly he settled into playing his own game on the back of seeing some similar traits from some of the players that debuted in the Test series over the summer. I think that speaks volumes for a group when a player can come in and feel comfortable to express themselves and feel comfortable enough to play the array of shots that he's got. In many ways, it sort of felt like we ended up having the flexibility of two Glenn Maxwells through the middle. I love the fact that he was able to adapt the role at different times, obviously batting at 3 and then slipping down to 5 at a couple of opportunities as well. So that showed a good ability to adapt, which is a great skill set at that level as well. So yeah, really pleased for him.
Thank you. That's a good wrap.
Thanks, Andrew. Let's go to Andrew Ramsey, please.
Oh, hi, George. I know it's a sort of unusual circumstance with two T20 World Cups so close together, but given the number of players you sort of had a look at during the course of the Australian summer, did you see how guys like Daniel Sams and maybe Ben McDermott might fit into a squad? Did you see enough of them to think playing in Australian conditions, which they will do in the next T20 World Cup, to sort of push away into a fairly well-established lineup?
Yeah, it is fairly established. I'm sorry, but I guess we constantly trying to make sure that there's competition. Love healthy competition in the background. So that's one point, and also just contingencies. Never knowing if someone is going to be injured and how that might. It's probably a format where if you do lose a specific player, it can have reasonably big flow-on effects to how you might utilise other players within your team. So just making sure we're trying to cover all those contingencies in the lead-up. And also do think it's a format where, using Josh as an example, I thought he was someone who came in and was able to express himself right away. It can be a format where that can take a little bit of time for some players. Benny Mack might be an example of that. I think there's a fantastic skill set there, but I don't think he's quite comfortable enough to really throw it out there and give us all he's got. So hopefully we can continue to try and expose that and make him feel safe enough that he can play as well as he can.
There were a couple of hands that were up and then went down. Pete, just check, Pete Lawley, you didn't have a question that...
No, Malcolm Conn covered everything for me. Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Thanks, Pete. And same for Lockie McCurdy.
Yeah, all good with me. Thanks, Alex.
And just checking with Tom. So did you want another question, Tom?
I was just going to clarify, George, the guys who are named in the test squad, your indication that they're all getting on the plane, there's no sort of late pull-outs. It's sort of been indicated in the weeks leading up.
Yeah, I hope not. It'd be late. No, I think it's as I said. I think on that test link up, the information's been really thorough. Not only for the test squad but also for this white ball squad as well. So lots of information. The mood from all the players I've been speaking to is just excitement around getting back to Pakistan, playing cricket there against a very strong team in challenging conditions.
Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks very much, George, for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks,
everyone.
George. Well done, Alex, as a sub.
Cheers. Cheers, everyone. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, George. Bye.